The following is a Laura Flanders Show minicast.
Jutta Treviranus is the director of the Inclusive Design Research Centre at the Ontario College of Art and Design in Toronto, Canada. She is a professor and a researcher looking at how we learn and how we study, and how do we do it for maximum inclusion and social justice. Our conversation, which was recorded a few months ago now, stands up really well in this moment. We're releasing it this week, and it seems entirely relevant and actually critical stuff for dealing with this COVID crisis. I had a chance to talk with her this week to find out how her ideas were being applied.
Our work has become even more relevant, and one of the things we're thinking about is how do we apply it now to things like online learning, to health response, to the distribution of information, to trying to figure out an approach that we can take during these very, very different times. And the interesting thing is that our advice is actually not changing. People are starting to understand it better and understand the relevance of it. We are helping schools to figure out what happens if you no longer have a school system, if kids are home with parents, and how do you continue to promote education now and then also when this is over and in the long term when the next crisis appears. Schools are asking, what do we do now? And of course, I had started a hybrid learning system, an inclusive design program, where what we did instead of the traditional model of schooling, we created a cohesive learning community where we looked at not how do we rank every student on the same scale, how do we standardize learners, but rather how do we figure out how we can optimize each learner's skills. So right from the beginning, we were assuming that everyone couldn't come to the classroom. Students needed choices in terms of how to participate. This is back in 2011, 2012. We looked at how can we create a system where students have as many choices as possible. And then how do students support each other? How do we get rid of this notion that we need to create a standardized learner and optimize everyone's skill? Our first goal was how do you create a cohesive learning community? And that's so relevant right now because you don't have a top-down education system anymore. The teacher is away from the students. The students are in very, very different environments. There's not a standard set of conditions that they're facing. And so what we need to do is the first step is how do we reconstruct social cohesion amongst people that are very dispersed and that are very different. One of the things that we need to do is abandon a bunch of our assumptions about learning and education. The notion that education is about ranking students all on the same scale, that it's about competing towards the same sort of learning goals. And what we're advising schools to do is to first of all, get to know each other. What are your interests? What are your skills? What are the resources? Also, as much as possible, stop creating a monoculture, meaning bringing together students of all ages works far better. So then you start focusing on problem project-based learning. Especially in these times, it's really hard to engage somebody in something that doesn't seem at all relevant. We all have problems and challenges we're trying to address. So which challenges and problems can we collectively address? And there we use the same sort of inclusive design principles. You go to the people who are facing the greatest difficulty or who are currently not able to make things work. Let's focus on those particular problems and issues, and then let's collectively work towards that. Not that we're each doing the same thing towards addressing that problem, but in project and problem-based learning, it's who can do what are the resources you have, what are the skills you have. I think the most interesting strategies that are happening are the more informal learning processes, and we've been quite well prepared for that because In our social justice repair kit project, we were looking at learners who had disengaged from learning and were now engaging in a whole range of youth movements where you didn't have the constraints or the expectations of formal education, and where there was a cohesive group that collectively would address a real problem, something that was the lived experience of people within the group. And we can apply that now in our schools and in our classrooms. So what we're doing is, for example, there is a not-for-profit group that has a whole bunch of kids. They need to get their work done as a not-for-profit. They're an essential service, but all of the employees have kids at home, kids of all ages, and it's really hard to focus on remote work when you're also worried about care of the kids. When we started to look within this not-for-profit group, what's the range of kids that are there and what are the resources the kids have? So we discovered, hey, there are grandparents at home, there are teenagers, there are people in their 20s that are no longer able to attend college. Let's ask the older group to come up with activities that will occupy the younger group. A talent show, a book reading, a storytelling hour, a opportunity to do a scavenger hunt game within your house, etc. So the older kids are all thinking creatively about how can I occupy a group of other kids within this cohort, which is now not age-related or grade-related. The grandparents are remembering and telling stories about how they survived other crises, and this too will pass, and this is how we come out of this and support each other better. We're also looking at how do we reward and the older kids in helping out, or the younger kids. And so we're looking at, we have community service hours that are required. We also have things like stackable credits. So the older kids that are worried about, well, this is overwhelming, I have so much to get done in my education, are able to trade the tasks that they're doing with social credit hours, etc. So we're creating this cohesive group. Some of the values that we were promoting within the program that I had was admitting to failures and mistakes, admitting to worries, weaknesses, constraints that you're feeling. So let's learn from those as well. It's good to talk about both strengths and problems, mistakes and successes, etc. So there's some recalibrating of what are things of value. Popularity is a topic that's come up again and again, where we need to move beyond popularity, because of course one of the things that we're learning, and one of the insights one of the kids brought, actually a fairly young kid, was that it was the places where people crowded to do the popular that were, some of these things spread, as opposed to being able to assert, these are my values, this is the difference or the value that I bring. So there are amazing learning moments that are coming out of this, but there are also lots of things we need to rethink, reconsider, deconstruct, unlearn. So right now there's a lot of unlearning coming about. The greatest learning happens not when we present the perfect or the permanent stasis or something that's already complete. That doesn't draw kids in, or any learner in, to engage in the learning. It's when we have something that is impermanent, imperfect, and incomplete that it compels people to engage and to help out and to bring forth their knowledge and their strengths. And so that's the things that we're valuing at the moment. And the other piece of advice is look to the jagged edge, not the average, not the popular. That's where there is the greatest vulnerability, but that's also where we have the greatest innovation and the most compelling applications of whatever we're doing. So don't try to do what everybody else is doing. Figure out where the gaps are and help to fill them. Figure out what you can contribute to address the collective goal that we have at the moment, which is to stay healthy, to keep socially connected, and then to hopefully recover from this in a better form as a community.